Good morning. Dynamic linked items, or DLI, dynamic linked items. It might sound a bit techie, and you might have seen reference to it when configuring a workbook system. So in this session, we're going to demystify dynamic linked items in workbooks and explain what they are and why you would use them. We're going to run through an example. Hello, my name is Tim Wilmot and I'm joined by my colleague Peter Johnson and our company Wizard Systems. We're a leading CRM solutions provider, supplier of systems like workbooks, and we primarily work with small and mid-sized companies to help them improve their sales, marketing and customer service through workbooks. So thank you for joining us today on our workbooks, our mini workbooks training session. Part of a series of regular weekly training sessions we run around workbooks just to focus on different topics in the system to help you get more out of the application and benefit your company. So this presentation will be fairly short, about 10 minutes or quarter of an hour or so in duration. There can be a lot to customizing your workbook systems. Is just one small element of it, and my company Wizard Systems, well, we can offer you lots of training options if you want to explore those with us. Now, the audio part of this presentation is one way only. If you've got any questions, please type them into the question box on your meeting control panel, and we will do our best to answer those at the end. Also, this event is being recorded. You will get an email from our system with a link to the recording afterwards that you can play back as many times as you want to, and we'll pop it up on our YouTube channel as well. If you want to take a look at all of our other previous workbook training sessions, then just go up to our YouTube channel, Wizard Systems, and there's a workbooks playlist there. Just before I hand over to Pete, just a brief mention about Wizard Systems. We are a long-standing, well-established CRM solutions provider. We've implemented hundreds and hundreds of CRM systems over the years, and we provide the complete service around workbooks to help you get the most out of it. Some people require little training or help. They want to do it on their own. Others require a bit more help or assistance for whatever reason. We're here to make sure whatever level of partnership arrangements, we're here to help you get the most out of workbooks. And we provide a permanently manned workbooks help desk to answer your calls. So let's, topic of the morning, dynamic linked items. I'm now going to pass over to my colleague, Peter. So we're just
morning to everybody.
Over.
Okay, so I'm just going to. Okay, so you should hear my screen, should see my screen and hear me. Sorry, I was muted there, Tim. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we're still on the slide there, Pete.
Great, so let me just go. So hopefully you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so yes, good morning, Tim, and good morning to everybody for this session. As Tim mentioned, we're going to have a look at dynamic linked fields or dynamic linked items. There's a few different types of terminology, DLI for short. We're also going to have a look at dynamic pick lists. Now, the reason for doing or seeing these is that it's a field that's used to do many other things. Now, you can use these fields. It makes it quick and easy to select values that perhaps are information that's elsewhere in your workbook system. So instead of creating a pick list and keeping that up to date, it naturally keeps itself up to date, and it's quick and easy to select from. It also is going to give you some consistency in data entry. Obviously, if you're typing in some value into a field, perhaps a company name that exists somewhere else, somebody could mistype that. But if you're selecting from a list where that list is the value that exists in workbooks elsewhere, then it's going to build some consistency into that data selection. And also this can help automatically populate other fields. So when you're in a record and you select a value, you might want to fill some other fields in that are related to that particular selection. So I'm going to show you some of that as well. And lastly, it can build and create relationships against records, which can save a considerable amount of time doing that manually. So I'm going to show you some examples of this. I'm also going to show you pretty much how it's put together or explain how it's put together, and then we can have a look at some of the advantages and benefits of using these. So my example today, I'm going to go from my typical trial or demo system here that I have got. Just going to move a couple of screens about in the background here. So this is Atlantic Computer Services. Now, dynamic linked items or fields can be used in pretty much any record type throughout the system, and they're quite obvious when you see them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a typical example and probably one of the most common areas I see DLIs used, and that's under the opportunity record. So I'm in the Atlantic Computer Services record here, and I'm going to start up a new opportunity record. And there's some very obvious DLIs in here. You can normally tell it's a DLI or a linked item purely by when the selection's done. You have these little icons so you can navigate to the record. Naturally, when you're creating an opportunity against an organization, in my example here, it's going to bring in information about the prospective customer. This is a DLI. What it does, this field dynamically links to the Atlantic Computer Services record in the background. And if I hadn't got the Atlantic Computer Services record open, I could just click this little button and open that customer record, and it will open up the Atlantic Computer Services record for me. So to save me creating or navigating or searching for that record. So this is our first example of a DLI. It's automatically populated because I created a new opportunity against that record. Another system one actually on many records is this marketing campaign. Now I don't have a little button next to it that's opted off, but if I click into this marketing campaign, and this allows me to associate this sales opportunity with a particular marketing campaign that's running, and therefore you could get your ROIs at the end to see how effective and how much business you've got from a particular campaign. But this list is driven, so this is a dynamic pick list. This list is driven by the marketing campaigns that exist within the system. So if I show you that as an example, the dynamic way that that's populated, if I go to a marketing campaign and let me create a new marketing campaign here, and I'll call this another campaign. Yeah, I won't fill in too much other detail, but if I save and close that, and if we go back to our example of Atlantic Computer Services, and I start a new opportunity, the marketing campaign drop-down list, the pick list, will be populated automatically with that value that I've just put in that other part of the system. So this is a dynamic linked pick list, or a dynamic pick list field. So you can create these anywhere in the system. So they're driven from reports actually. So behind here, there's a report that's looking at all the marketing campaigns and the name of those so that you can easily select them from a list. So no need to keep a pick list updated. So another couple of extensions to that type of thing is a couple of fields here I've got as an example. Now my example here, so let me sample, I'm going to give this opportunity a name. And I've got two bits of information I'd like to collect about an opportunity. In my example here, I perhaps keep some key performance targets or information that relate to how I got this particular opportunity. Was it an internal referral from one of my staff members, or was it an external referral from one of my referees or referrers within my database, so somewhere else in my CRM? So if we have a look at this internal referee, so here we go. So here I have a list of employees. So if I select this, perhaps this employee of mine, James K, passed this opportunity to me. Of course, I've got assigned to, which is who it belongs to, but it was referred to me by James K. And if I click on here now, this will take me to the employee record of James K. You can see here he works for my organization and details about him. But what that can do is keep a tab on who referred these opportunities. If it was an external referrer, now obviously I'd probably just choose one of these. You know, was it referred by somebody internally or somebody externally? This in here is a list of all of the people within my Workbooks system. So every single person. So I can do a normal search here. If I add Tim Jones here, you can see that the external referrer was Tim Jones, Blue Sky Imaging. And again, if I were to click on this little button here, it will navigate to that record and find that associated person record in my system. So you can see actually why these are called dynamic, because they automatically look at information within the system. So if I save this, I'm going to show you a couple of other things that this particular selection has done. And when you create, let me put the date in here. When you create these dynamic linked fields, you can choose how they behave. So these two particular ones, this internal referrer or the external referrer, they're not only just values on the screen, but they've also created a relationship in the background here against the people tab. You can see if I click on the people tab, the referral, and I've got the relationship over here. I'll just drag that across so you can see it. So you can see both James K and Tim Jones are the referrer. The alternative to this, and some of you that haven't discovered DLIs yet, you may be going to a record such as this opportunity and people and adding a relationship manually. So that's quite a lengthy process compared to the DLI. So in here I can search for another Tim, maybe if I select this Tim here, and then I go and select the relationship type, he's a referrer to, and so on, and add. And you can see that takes its time to do, whereas using a DLI allows me to very quickly search and select a contact, but also I have the choice of creating a relationship also. So you can see some of the advantages here to having these DLIs. Let me show you some other examples. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to take a slightly, what normally would be a slightly longer approach to creating a record in the system. I'm going to go start new, and I'm going to go down to case. I'm going to choose a general inquiry here and start a case. And you can see that this case is not associated to any record in the system. So if I were to go and go to an organization or a person and maybe choose new case, I might want this linked to Alan Whitehead. But you might want to open lots of records to be able to do that. But as soon as I open a new case and it's not associated to anybody, I could start typing in here, and this field here, contact name, is a DLI. And you can see here I can select Alan Whitehead, Atlantic Computer Services. Notice just in the background here there's some other fields, telephone, email, and such like. As soon as I select Alan, you can see these fields have been populated automatically. So you can map the information that's on the selected DLI field and populate other fields automatically. If I just type some details in here, sample case, yeah, you can see. Now, if I were to save this, it generates the information in the background. All of that information is stored against this record. So we've got Alan's details, and I can navigate to Alan's record. But we've also got some other information that might be very relevant to keep at the level of the case. Of course, it would be really easy to email Alan now just by choosing the email address, where as if it wasn't there, there may be some other information, email addresses in here that are associated that you want to email quickly and easily, and this is the way to do it. And without a DLI populating that, you'd have to type in the details that you need at that point. And again, because I've created this contact name in here, notice this case has already got the relationship of both the person that's associated with that and his employer. So this case is linked to Alan Whitehead as well as Atlantic Computer Services, and that's all driven from the DLI, the dynamic linked item type field. Yeah, so you can see a few examples here, and I often find when I show somebody this for the first time, they've got all these marvelous ideas where they're taking a long time to fill information in to particular records, and they're having to go in and type it all in. But just by selecting and using DLIs, which are really driven from reports in the background, so in the background here, there's a report of every person and organization in the system, so I can associate it to a case. You can even restrict those reports. You might not ever raise cases for your supplier records. So in your report that's driving this list in the background, you would choose to say, you know, anything that's not a supplier, for example. Yeah. Okay, so DLIs, really simple. So we've got DLI, which is a field that's associated with other records, or you've got a dynamic pick list, which I used in the opportunity area, where there's simply just a selection from a record that exists within the background database within your workbook system, such as that marketing campaign one. Okay, so Tim, have you got any comments or questions to add to this?
Well, I think we can see that the value of a dynamic linked item in workbooks to link these different records together. Looks like a pick list. It's relatively easy to set up and understand. It's going to, as Pete is saying, it's going to help you save time. If you do want any more assistance on customizing your workbook system, then please contact Wizard Systems. We'd be happy to try and understand what you're trying to do, and then establish a training session for you or online session to help you get set up right. So as we normally do, those of you listening live, we open out our session to a little Q&A around this topic today, dynamic linked items. So a few questions have come through, Pete. First one from Faye. Do you have any instructions on how to create one of these fields?
Yes, I mean, the standard knowledge base is really good. It takes you through an opportunity example, I believe. So if you do a search for DLI, let's do a quick search here. Creating a DLI custom field. Yeah, so there's a few in here, creating relationships with a DLI. And you can see the topic that it brings up in the knowledge base is quite detailed. So you can see here dynamic linked items and pick lists along with other fields, but there's some really useful descriptions on creating this and a step-by-step guide on doing so. I think the example is to create a primary contact against an opportunity. So you can imagine doing some work with an opportunity, you want to know who is the primary person within that deal, perhaps. Yeah. So yes is the answer. Standard use, and as Tim mentioned, we can have some online help as well if you're using your admin credits or some training.
Okay, hopefully that answers your question. Tyler, do I have to create a report first?
Yeah, these DLIs require a report in the background, so this internal referrer will point to a report. So if I just briefly go in to customizing the opportunity and show you what that DLI field looks like. Obviously, you're going to go and create a new field, and so here's the internal referrer, and you can see that it has a type of dynamic link. And when you use these DLIs or create them, you have to have a report prepared, because when you build this field, it wants to know which report you're going to be using. So the report in the background is there already, so it needs to be built first, preparing it for your DLI. And you can see there's lots of little settings in a DLI field that need to be thought about, but have a go through those instructions or get some help as well.
Okay, question from Ari. How many field types are there in workbooks?
Oh, there's a couple of dozen field types. I'm actually on this screen now. So whenever you add a new field to a record type, in this example, it's opportunities. So I can create, I think there's 24, so a couple of dozen here. And the ones that we've looked at today is a dynamic linked item and also a dynamic pick list, these two. But you can see there's lots of others, maybe something we could cover in some future sessions, these 101 sessions, Tim. Let's have a look at some of these other specialty ones that can be quite useful.
Yeah, and there's some field types in there that you don't get with many other CRM solutions. It's one of the advantages, or one of the many advantages of workbooks, is this the choice you've got on the customization to really make workbooks work in the way that you want it to work, rather than being confined with just a limited number of types of fields or the formatting of information. Workbooks really does give you an extensive choice there of those different field types. Right, don't think there's any more questions, Pete, that have come through. So just to briefly wrap this up, dynamic linked items, I hope that was of interest to you. There's our contact details. If you've got any ideas for future little mini training sessions like this, any topic that you think would be of interest to other workbooks and CRM users, please contact Peter or myself, Tim at or Peter at wizard-systems.com. There you can see our YouTube channel link, Wizard Systems, all one word. You'll see a whole load of different CRM videos up there on different topics we've done over the years. So that's it, us done for this week. We'll catch up with you same time next week, Thursday morning, 10 a.m. UK, for another interesting workbooks CRM topic. We'll catch up with you soon. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.